Andy, and of course NBCC on behalf of the Penn American Center for this wonderful, illustrious award. As Andy has already alluded to, he is the baby of the family. In fact, he's about 10 years younger than one of his older brothers, Nick. And so he is called by the insiders in the family the American afterthought. And it is because of that that we believe he has become such a distinguished student of American history. So this is literature and history's game. As Andy has said, he was the man who got me involved in Penn, and now we come back together again today in a celebration. It's also an honor to stand here with Ron Chernow, whose classic history of the House of Morgan is painfully prophetic. There's a wonderful quote at the beginning of the House of Morgan from John Maynard Keynes saying something to the effect that while bankers have this kind of romantic and even sometimes staid persona, their lack of connection to reality is a serious problem. I need say no more. Ron himself is the former president of Penn and a man responsible for much of its success. Our current president is Francine Prose, who regrettably can't be here tonight, and she is being succeeded next month by Anthony Abbia. So we continue to see great writers as well as great leaders at Penn. As has already been mentioned, Ivan Sandrof was the first president of NBCC, so it's a daunting experience to read over the rosters of honorees. For me personally, growing up in Chicago and listening to Stutz Terkel, of course, he was one of them, Elizabeth Hardwick, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Leslie Fiedler, James Laughlin, Robert Giroux, as well as the Library of America series, whose volumes are now overrunning my bookshelves at home. I intend to read all of them when I have a few spare years. I also want to thank Gita Sharma Jensen and Jane Chavatori from this organization for being so helpful in setting up the logistics tonight. This is such an exciting night, packed with lovers of books, and I know what it takes to put an event like this on, as they do so well. In accepting this award, Ron and I want to make it very clear that we stand here very humbly for a team of employees who make Penn what it is today. At the top of that list, as has already been mentioned, is Michael Roberts, our executive director, retiring this year, who has been the guiding light of this organization for the past decade and has injected great passion and remarkable vibrancy and spirit into an organization that is now almost 90 years old. Michael and many of his colleagues are here today, and I will mention a few of them later for the outstanding work that they do day in and day out. Andy has done a very good job in enumerating the many programs at Penn which we pursue in binding and protecting the world literary community. But let me just try a couple of human examples to show how we personify our goals. There's a man in China, for example, named Liu Shobao, who is a literary critic, writer, and activist who's been an official of the Independent Penn Center in Beijing. He's also co-author of Charter 08, a declaration calling for political reform, greater human rights, and an end to one-party rule in China. Last December, Liu was arrested late at night on suspicion of inciting subversion of state power, and his computer and other materials were confiscated. He is currently being held without charge under residential surveillance at an unknown location. He most likely will be tried for subversion, and should he be convicted, he could face years in prison. This case study, provided by Larry Seams, who heads our Freedom of Writing program, is one of hundreds that Larry and his group follow around the world. As Barbara Goldsmith, one of our great benefactors who is here tonight, says, we need to shine the spotlight on these situations because that is the only way we can get government to act. And we should point out, as Andy already did, that there are still many examples in this country where the Patriot Act and other laws have been used by local communities to harass and even arrest writers, librarians, or teachers who threaten to overthrow our government by assigning Catcher in the Rye. A second example is our Penn World Voices Festival of International Literature, which is already been discussed, which will bring dozens of writers here. This year's theme is evolution and revolution. The program was started by Solomon Rushdie 5 years ago and has been gaining international stature under Carol Llewellyn, the current head. Along with our translation program under Esther Allen, we are striving to make the world a smaller place at a time when interdependency among nations is a pressing need in order to save our planet. I'd also like to just bear with me here just for a second, cite a few other of our great directors. Stacy Lee of the Readers and Writers Program, Nick Berg, Literary Awards, M. Mark and David Hagelin, the Penn Journal, Linda Morgan, who's our tireless development leader, Jackson Taylor, already has been up here, handles prison writings, Laura Tobin is the acting head of membership, Antonio Aiello manages the website, Alina Graydon is handling administration, and Michael Welt is our CFO. I'll stop there. I do want to thank NBCC for this incredible honor and thank all Penn members for continuing to prove that literature matters more than ever in these tough economic times.
Andy and Larry, who both have been very, very valuable board members, have given you, I think, such an eloquent and comprehensive description of Penn's activities that I'm tempted to merely say, ditto, exclamation point, thank you. Let me, if I may, leave page I just want to say something about the state of book reviewing. You know, I've often thought that compared to actors or musicians or artists, how lucky we writers are that in the past, if you had a good book, that you could really feel that that book would be reviewed in dozens of newspapers and magazines across the country. And very often, when I've met young writers who are about to publish their first book, I would say to them, you know, you may find that any single review will get it wrong, sometimes very wrong, but that you will find, on balance, that the consensus of reviewers across the country will get it right. And I felt that I was able to say that because of the richness and the variety and also just the sheer number of reviews that a good book would get. That, alas, is endangered in this environment. And I really feel very strongly, you know, book reviewers, newspapers, magazines are an endangered species. So are we writers, because we need you. And I really hope that one of the priorities of Penn American Center in the coming years will be to collaborate with the Book Critics Circle to keep the book review culture vibrant and alive in America. Thank you.